Welcome to another broadcast of the American and Christian Truth News Network broadcast. Please subscribe, like, and share.
Welcome to the American and Christian Truth News Network. I am your host, Tony Franklin, and this is the Franklin's News Angle, whereby every broadcast we discuss topics dealing with politics, entertainment, religion, and societal issues that affect you and I as everyday Americans. Well, should we really be involved in this war in Ukraine? And what effect will it have on us as everyday citizens, as well as the effect that it can bring between the United States, our country, and Russia? Well, this is a topic that we're going to dig deep into today. So stay with us on the American and Christian Truth News Network. Well, how does the war between Ukraine and Russia benefit you and I as everyday American citizens? How does it affect us economically? And what actually is its political relevance to you and I as American citizens? Well, we definitely can expect even higher gas prices than what we're seeing right now in the very, very near future. Also, oil prices has risen dramatically, up to over $100 a barrel in the past couple of days, sitting right now at about $104 a barrel, which is affecting gas prices. We can even expect much higher utility bills, even higher food prices. We might even experience trucking hardships because of the high increasing cost of gasoline that it costs our truckers to transport goods and services to us as American citizens. So, what is our political relevance to us as citizens? Well, honestly, the United States has no committed alliance at all to the Ukraine government. The United States has no political responsibility to protect the nation of Ukraine. So, why is Ukraine's democracy important in their borders, but our borders and our democracy are being sacrificed and purposely torn down by our political elites in DC? Over 2 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States under the Biden administration since he took office, and we have no idea where they are and in which cities. And it has recently been reported that over 40 Afghan immigrants that are terrorists have been released into the United States, and the Justice Department has no idea where they are. I thought that everyone entering this country was being fully vetted. In addition, the Justice Department is still suspected of being in negotiations to pay each illegal immigrant hundreds of thousands of dollars for entering our borders illegally under the disguise of being separated from their families. And because of this, politicians have stopped mentioning protecting Ukraine's borders because our politicians in DC are not protecting our borders. And when we hear them say they're wanting to go thousands of miles to protect another nation's borders while leaving our borders in utter chaos, it is humiliating, it is frustrating, and it is angering to every one of us as American citizens. Out of 180 nations, Ukraine is ranked 117th in the Ernst and Young poll, as well as ranked the ninth most corrupt nation in the world. And because of Biden's son and his corrupt alliance with Ukraine and their government and utilities industry, how do you and I know that they're not being blackmailed to cover their tails by supporting this war against Ukraine while risking us and our nation security. This has been proven and has actually been hidden by the news media that Biden's son, as well as Joe Biden, have corrupt ties in Ukraine. I've heard politicians say this is necessary to sacrifice and make this sacrifice, and that we must make this for their democracy. While we suffer higher gas prices, oil prices, and utility prices, that is easy for politicians in DC to say that we as citizens must bear this sacrifice, being that we pay all of them over $120,000 a year and up, and a lot of them have become politically rich through corruption themselves, just as the Bidens. So $5 to $6 in future gas prices won't really affect the political elite because of government perks and high salaries and benefits. But to the average citizen, these increases upon you and I will be devastating. It hurts us in other areas and industries as well, because Russia is a major exporter of rare earth minerals and heavy metals, such as titanium used in airplanes. Russia supplies about 1/3 of the world's palladium, a rare metal used in catalytic converters, and its price has soared in recent weeks over fears of a conflict. Ukrainian economic output and industry will likely be significantly disrupted. The country is a major source of neon, which is used in manufacturing semiconductors. As a result, U.S. officials have warned various sectors to embrace for supply chain disruptions, including the semiconductor and the aerospace industries. Fertilizer is produced in major quantities in both Ukraine and Russia. Disruptions to those exports would mostly affect agriculture in Europe, but food prices around the world could rise dramatically as a result, especially in the United States. There is more pain at the pump. Oil prices have jumped to levels unseen since 2014, in part because of this conflict that could derail Russian energy supply. And this is what famed news broadcaster for Fox News, Jesse Waters, had to say about the price of gas, as well as sanctions that we're placing against Russia.
Anything wrong, but now you're paying the price. Doesn't sound fair, right? Well, that's what's going on in Eastern Europe. Halfway across the world, Russia and Ukraine have started to brawl. But instead of breaking a lamp, they're going to break the economy. And like the responsible older brother, the American people are going to get punished for it. And there's no place will be hit harder than at the gas pump. We showed you last night, a gallon of gas is over $5 here in New York City. It's well over $100 just to fill up your SUV.
What do you think about these high gas prices?
I think they're ridiculous.
It's difficult for us.
It's horrible. It's $5.29 here. I can't afford that.
How much does it cost you to fill up your tank?
My tank, $80.
Over 100?
Here it cost me about $100.
$110. Regular.
And that's just getting started. Yesterday, Biden laid out a series of sanctions against Russia. But sanctions in Russia are like mosquitoes in Louisiana. They've always been there. It's a way of life. They deal with it. Russia's ambassador to the U.S. summed it up best, saying, quote, "I don't remember a single day when our country lived without any restrictions from the Western world. We've learned to work in such conditions, and not only to survive, but also to develop our state. There is no doubt that the sanctions introduced against us will hit global financial and energy markets. The United States will not be left out, with its ordinary citizens feeling the consequences of the price increase in full."
So what you have heard is a recorded interview with Jesse Waters of Fox News talking about the gas prices, as well as sanctions against Russia, as well as interviewing normal citizens, you and I, about the current effect gas prices is having on them, running between $70 to $100 to fill their tanks. So, with this war and the escalations of this war involving Ukraine, Russia, the United States, and its allies, how much more of an increase are we going to see in the very near future in gas prices and oil prices that you and I are going to have to suffer through? And not only that, but it is just the beginning. There's other things as well that will be affected by this war and our involvement in this war. Historic inflation. Inflation right now is the biggest problem facing the U.S. economy. And Russia's invasion of Ukraine could make it much, much worse. There is also stock market turbulence. Investors famously detest uncertainty. The Dow Jones tumbled 700 points the morning after the invasion as investors confront the possibility of an oil shock, higher inflation, and a confusing sanctions regime coming from the Biden administration. We could be looking at slower economic growth. The RSM analysis also found that a jump to $110 oil per barrel would dent U.S. GDP, gross domestic product, by 1 percentage point. Now, that is not as dramatic as the impact to inflation, but it is still significant given that the U.S. economy has fully not recovered from all the jobs lost during COVID. We could be looking at higher borrowing costs. If inflation spikes above 10%, the Federal Reserve would come under pressure to step up its fight to get prices under control. This could mean a faster pace of interest rate hikes to cool off inflation. We could be looking at cyber attacks and more. As the Ukraine conflict escalates, the U.S. is also braced for Russian cyber attacks. The hacking of the Colonial Pipeline last year showed just how disruptive a cyber attack can be in the real world. A cyber intrusion shut down one of the most important pipelines in America last year, sparking panic, buying, and left many gas stations in the Southeast empty. A successful cyber attack on America's financial system, a top worry of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, could even be more disruptive. A cyber attack is just one example of how the Russia-Ukraine situation could spill over into the daily lives of you and myself as Americans. Wars evolved in unpredictable ways. J.P. Morgan's Kelly said, "No one should assume that they can see all the impacts of a war at its outset." So therefore, I ask you as American citizens, what is the relevance of us being involved in this war between Ukraine and Russia? It does not benefit us economically. As a matter of fact, it makes things a whole lot harder for us. It does not benefit us politically, and there is actually no political relevance because we are not politically responsible to protect Ukraine. So why are our politicians involving us in this war? Why are we sending our troops, our resources, your tax money to protect another nation's border and their sovereignty, while our borders, our national sovereignty, is being purposely torn down by our political elites in DC? This makes no sense, and it is completely asinine. And this is one of the frustrating things that we as American citizens have against this democratic society as well as this Biden administration. Citizens, it is time that we put a stop to this madness in our country. When we go to the voting booths this year and in 2024, it is time to collapse these people in office that are purposely trying to destroy our nation and getting us involved in wars and things that really actually have no relevance to us as American citizens. Now, I will probably be labeled as uncaring, as a racist, as a white supremacist, as someone who doesn't care about foreigners and things that are going on in other countries. But I want to mention this to you as well. I was born in Canada, and I also detest the treatment that Justin Trudeau has placed on the Canadian truckers. So I stand for America. I stand for what is right. I stand for liberty and justice for all. And as an American citizen who loves this nation, it is our job to question the political elite and to stand against them and stand up to them when they are bringing hardships and things into our country that affect us financially, politically, and when we know they are absolutely no good for our nation. This is the American and Christian Truth News Network, and this is the Franklin News Angle. Join me again on our next broadcast of the American and Christian Truth News Network.
Thanks for joining us on the Franklin News Angle. Join us every Tuesday and Friday on the American and Christian Truth News Network. And once again, please subscribe, like, and share. The A&CT News Network. Stay informed.